Hi everybody, it's Cycle Camp again, and have another interesting gun that I've recently acquired that I thought I'd share with you today. This one is going to take a while to probably restore because it's in pretty bad shape. But what this is it's a French weapon. It looked originally like it was a French 1907 15, which you can see here, the Saint Etienne model 1907-15, but it has the larger 5-round magazine, and if you go to the barrel, where's my barrel, you will find a set of markings on it. Let me turn this around. You'll find a set of markings on the barrel, MPA, I don't have it in focus, sorry, MPA 1916. So basically what this is a Berthier 1907-15 that's been re-arsenaled to a Model 16 with the 5-round magazine. Now it's a very interesting gun. Unfortunately, as you can see by how shiny the stock is and everything, and we'll just do this, and how long and long and long and long and long and long. This one barely fits in my gun cabinet. This has been sporterized, and the stock has been cut down, but none of the parts were damaged. They left the little nubs for the bayonet, and all the sights it has the original sights on it, and all of that stuff. These are interesting guns because these use the Mannlicher system for a action, and the shoe fits up through a clip that goes in here, and there's actually a door on the bottom, and they use an en-bloc clip very similar to an M1 Garand, but the difference is when the M1 Garand is done, it pops out the top. On this firearm, it shoves out through the bottom, and you could use either the 3-round magazine, which is what the 1907-15 originally used, or you can use the 5-round magazine, which is why they remodeled this as the 16. So it's interesting little gun. I got it for a very reasonable price from a friend of mine, but unfortunately it's missing some parts. As you can probably see, it has the rear recoil lug, but the front recoil lug and nut are missing. Also, if you went underneath it, you would find that the screw that holds the rear of the trigger plate on is missing, and if you went, I don't know if you can see this or not. Let's see if it's here. Okay, if you look here in this hole, there's supposed to be the end of a bolt that comes in from underneath to hold this tang down. So you can see this gun is very, very loosey-goosey. What I'm planning on doing is trying to bring this back to original condition, kind of like I did with my Nagant, and I've already gotten some of the parts that I was able to find pretty easily. So I went to a place. Bring the microphone down and the camera. I went to a place called Springfield Sporters, and these guys had some of the stuff I needed. So Springfield Sporters. So basically, what we have here, this is the tang screw and the screw for the bottom of the trigger plate here. This is the other recoil lug, which I'm going to have trouble putting it in because when they lacquered this gun up, I don't know if you can see it, but they really did a terrible job, and they got lacquer all over this hole, so it's probably not going to sit flush. And I'm told these are very difficult to install anyway, or at least install properly. I also picked up a tang screw plate, which is this little plate goes underneath the tang, and it holds the head of the tang screw that goes in, and it also is where the screw for the back of the trigger guard goes in. And then there's a wood screw that actually holds the plate in, so it's got one wood screw that holds it in back in here, and then the other two bolts, one of them goes through and the other one comes up from the other side. So That's pretty straightforward. And then lastly, I got a rear barrel band, and really the only reasons I got the tang plate and the real barrel band was because if I ordered a certain amount of money, I get the shipping for free. So I just said, well, you know, who knows, these things look like they're pretty easy to lose, so I figured I'd get them both. So that's basically what I'm going to do. First I'm going to try to get it to the point where I can shoot it. It is in the original 8x50 millimeter French. This particular firearm, if you can see them, yeah, you can see them. You see this little N here, and there's a matching one on the other side. That's not, it's a lot fainter. That means that this was set up for the Balle N, B-A-L-L-E, N round, which was actually the machine gun round. It's the same bullet, but it's the same cartridge, but the bullet tapers a little differently. So this particular action has been carved out so it can handle that. You don't need to shoot N's. You can still shoot the ball D's on this, and that's what I plan on shooting, because the ball ends are going to be pretty. Those are pretty peppy. So, and I hear this gun kicks like a mule. So, but it's supposed to, you know, the furniture on this is supposed to come, you know, like way out to here, and then there's also I apologize. The barrel of this gun is so long, I actually tapped my keyboard, which stopped the recording. So again, the furniture is supposed to come way out towards the end of this barrel, and there is also supposed to be a handguard. And this is the little shell, the shoulder for the handguard, and the handguard comes out to about here. And basically, it has, you know, a hole for the sight. And on this particular one, because if I can find one, I'm going to try to find one that has the rear notch cut out, because this is where the serial number of the firearm is, and what they did was they notched them out for that. In addition, this particular sight, when you flip it all the way over, this rear part of the sight becomes your zero sight, you know, for short range work. And so the handguard will have a cutout. It'll have a milled out portion here, and then it'll actually have a cutout hole right here, so that this the top of the sight can lay flush. So that's basically what I'm going to be looking for. And actually, I'm going to be looking for the wood parts in Tulsa at the Tulsa show this coming weekend. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing. So I'm hoping to replace all of this. If I can't, I may look into, I have found some places that sell distressed stocks, and if you can find one with a good front end, I might be able to cut and splice this, you know, up ahead of this hand groove. So that's another thing I'm going to be looking into. But that's basically what we're going to do with this. So, you know, that's basically all the discussion part of the gun that I had. If you want to hang around a little bit, I'm going to actually take the gun apart and replace some of the screws. Now, this one has some pretty interesting stuff in it. There's this whole assembly comes forward and just pulls out, and it's held by the screw in the back. But there's also, this screw is a combination of a screw and a pin, and goes all the way across the firearm. It comes all the way across the firearm, and it actually holds this thing in. So if you take that out, you see this starts to pop right out, and your whole fire control assembly and magazine assembly comes out as one piece, and that's pretty cool. But you have to get that out in order to get underneath here to get the tang screw in. So I'm going to grab the tang screw, and we're going to stick that in. So this little package has both the tang screw and the screw for the plate assembly. And now the question is, which one? It's this hole. Okay, that makes sense because it's the one that's got the room for the shoulder of the nut of the sorry, not the nut, the bolt. So we're probably going to have to fart around with this a little bit to get it lined up to where it'll actually go in. Well, that wasn't too bad. So here we go. And when you're working with these older guns, actually if you're working with any guns, whether they're older guns or not, it's always a good idea to have a set of hollow ground screwdriver tips, so that the screwdriver tips come in square and don't come in at an angle. It keeps you from buggering up the screws. These are actually original screws removed from rifles. So I want to make sure to do a good job. And what I use, I have a little Winchester set that has all kinds of tips in it. and it even has some of the real big ones, so that you can really get a grip on some of these larger screws. And it's a great little set, and it was fairly inexpensive. I don't remember exactly what it cost, but I know it was fairly cheap. So that's the internal tank screw that was missing the whole time. Now when you put this back in, there's a notch here, and that notch fits up inside, and actually this is locked together with the top of the frame. I'm sorry, the top of the receiver. So once we get that in, now we can put our screw for our trigger assembly, which was also missing as part of this. And I'm not going to put that one all the way in yet, because I want to make sure I can get the horizontal, and that's how they're labeled. If you ever looked at a parts list for this, you'd find that one screw is labeled as the horizontal trigger screw, trigger plate screw, and the other one is listed as the vertical. So this is the horizontal that goes in horizontally, and this is the one that goes in vertically. So those are in there. But you can see, if I had ever tried to fire this, that especially with that 8x50 millimeter, it would have torn this action apart. It would have been pretty horrible. So that's 2/3 of what I need to actually be able to shoot it. The only thing I need left in order to actually shoot it is to install the forward recoil lug. So this is the old-fashioned recoil lug. These are all packed in greasy gook, and so basically that's the whole thing. And you can see they have these little funny heads on them, and they did that on purpose. They did not want the people who use these rifles working on their own rifles. They did not want them doing that. But this is basically how this would all work: is you shove that through and throw that cap on there, and then screw it down. Now this is where it gets really interesting, because these things, you can't buy the tools to work on these, because apparently the French still use these kinds of screws on their guns, and these are not typically available on the market. But I went to a tag sale this weekend, and I found this for $2. I found this little tool that has like pinheads in it, and I said, well, that ought to work. And I don't think you could do one that was like rusted on. I think it would just tear the tool apart. But just to get it on, to start it on, I think it'll work. And worst comes to worst, I could go get a spanner. There's a spanner tool you can get from Harbor Freight that you might be able to use with this too. But you can see that it's going to work pretty well. Now, I believe the other one was removed as well, because you are not supposed to have any. That bolt head should not be proud. It should be flat. It should be even. And when these are put in correctly, they should be even like this one is, and not like that one is. And so I believe when whoever boogered up the stock, took the stock off to lacquer it, I believe they over tightened this. In fact, it looks like it might have. Yeah. So you can see they crushed the side of the stock a little bit when they were putting it in. So I think they really over tightened it. But now it's got at least all the minimum necessary number of parts that if I wanted to put around in this and try to fire it, I think I could. So I will keep everybody informed of how I do with this. I've got quite a few parts. I've got to find the what do you call it? The strap connector for this. They changed this, by the way. They started with the one on the bottom, and they determined that it was cutting holes in people's uniforms and they were carrying it. So they carved this out, and they put a strap across it, and they used that. And that's pretty popular in a lot of old military guns. You see that carved out spot with the iron strap that goes across, and that's where you hook your sling on. But it should be pretty interesting to see if I can find some more parts of this and bring it back really the way it should have been, which of course that's one of the things I really like. So thanks for stopping by with me. A little bit of light disassembly and some fun. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to get some more parts and get this thing rolling and actually try firing it. We'll see what happens. I may have to take this one to a gunsmith, because it does have some pitting on the barrel, and I'm not sure if it's pitted enough to be a problem. I did soak the inside of the barrel with my favorite Birchwood Casey bore scrubber, and you would not believe the sludge that came out of this thing. But the barrel itself looks pretty good. It's not shiny because these are not chrome lined, but it is clean and it doesn't appear to have any pits, and the rifling looks fairly strong. So I'm hopeful that the gun will fire. I'm certainly not going to waste a lot of rounds through it, but you know me, any gun that I have in my collection, I like to know it's an actual working gun, and it will actually fire. So thanks a lot for coming along. I hope you enjoyed seeing this first look at my my sporterized Berthier model 1916, and hopefully when I go to Tulsa, I'll be able to find some of the wood parts for it that I need. Have a great afternoon, and thanks for watching.